Hey guys, welcome to our second annual virtual leaders huddle. We are so excited to get to talk to you guys today about some things that have been on our heart recently.
hmm
And so we just want to let you know that we're thankful for you and we appreciate all that you're doing in our ministry. And we're excited to connect on a deeper level through this training.
Yeah. And one of the things that is on our hearts with this training, as we talked about last year, is we want to keep this training really, really practical, really tangible. We want to talk about like the real stuff in ministry, how to really navigate your role and how to thrive at what you're doing. So everything we're going to talk about and process together is all super tangible stuff. That being said, we want your involvement. And so we're going to go through a few different things and process some perceptions and how to put these things into practice. But we want you to have some paper with you, because at the end of each one, we're going to pause. We're going to ask a question, pause even the video, give you a minute to answer the question, and then keep going. So it's somewhat interactive as we go along.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that we really wanted to talk about and dive into more was the fact that our role as leaders and as small group leaders is to be a discipler over a program manager. I think sometimes we get caught up in the fact of running the program and going from thing to thing to thing, that we kind of get lost in the mundane little intentional moments. And so, yes, our focus is on program and getting it ready and set up and going, but we want to break this down into three ways that can kind of help you be more intentional in those moments throughout the program, so that we are encouraging discipleship rather than just remain focused on the program.
Yeah. The first thing with this being a discipler is your presence. Your presence is really powerful. And so we want to encourage you to think about, how are you carrying your presence? First with that is thinking about, how does your presence matter before and after what we're doing as a program? I think it can be easy to think of the start of our program, the countdown hits, we're doing the big group, we're doing a small group, and then it ends, and then we're off.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, the most natural place that you can be you and they can be them is actually before the timer ever starts and after your small group ends. That's when discipleship and relationship really happens. And so we want to encourage you guys as leaders to use that active space. That's actually what we use in youth, the word active space. It's a place to play a game or have a conversation or laugh with a kid or cry if you're having an intentional conversation with a kid. It's an active space. To use that active space to your advantage.
Yeah.
The second thing with presence is knowing the value of your small group leader questions as not just a checklist, but rather as a relational kindling to lead a conversation. And we talk about this a lot of times with our new leader onboarding and how to use your notes. Those are not things that you have to go through and word by word by word say, but rather they're things to spur on conversation. And so use those notes to your advantage, but don't feel like they're a manual that you have to go through with your students each week. And then the last thing I would say, and I think this looks different with every group and the context of different grades, but understand that discipling kids happens not just in Sundays, but outside of Sundays. Now, some of our older groups, it might be a group text where you guys are able to communicate and talk and build community outside of our programs. For some of our younger groups, it might look like sending them a letter in the mail and a word of encouragement or things like that. We had a group of sophomore guys that I love what happened in the fall time. One of our sophomore guys is really involved in mixed martial arts. And so he does these big competitions, and all the guys from his group showed up to his mixed martial arts competition and surprised him and cheered him on, and it just made this kid's day, it made his week. And that's it. That's what community and discipleship looks like. It happens on Sundays, but it also happens outside of Sundays with your presence.
Yeah, for sure. And then the second way is to challenge them to grow their faith beyond the group time that you have them for. We understand that conversations get sidetracked and you're only there for a short time. And so our job as leaders is to encourage them to go deeper than that in those 20 minutes that we have with them, but also throughout the week. It doesn't look like just a Sunday morning thing, but it looks like the Monday to the Saturday and what that looks like for them. And so you can do this by giving them challenges, encourage them to spend intentional moments with Jesus throughout their week, whether it's reading a Bible or praying or just going on a walk and having a talk with the Lord, whatever that may look like for them. But that's your space to encourage them and to push them into deepening their faith and their relationship with Him.
Yeah. And then the last thing with discipleship that I would encourage you guys to do is see yourself as a coach. I've been diving a lot into, like, with my own kids, but also with other youth, is like, how do we shape behavior? And it's really through this idea of coaching. So allowing kids to go out, maybe with the challenges that we give them, to go out and put those things in practice. But then as they come back, it's assessing, it's asking questions. How did that go? And receiving their feedback and then giving them direction and redirections. And so your role as a leader in their lives is to be coaching them in what it looks like to grow in their faith. It's not just going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen even over a week. It's going to take time. And so we have to be intentional to coach them, to ask good questions, and to walk with them through what growth in their faith looks like. So as we think of this idea of being a discipler over being a program manager, we want to ask our first question of you guys. We want to ask simply, can you think of a scenario with a student where you felt the impact of an intentional discipleship moment?
The second thing that we kind of want to focus on and talk about today is the fact that our groups are getting more diverse, and we love that. And some people may see that as a challenge, they may see that as a tension point, but we just want to encourage you guys to pursue the diversity that is happening within your group, whether that's culturally, socioeconomically, ethically, whatever that may look like. Our groups are changing, and that is amazing. And so we see that this can create some tension and some challenge. And so we want to help encourage you in the ways to practically walk that out in your group and to be able to shepherd the conversations as we have them in small group on Sundays, to encourage that and not discourage that or make anyone feel left out or less than because of a difference that they may have from those other people in our group.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that it can be tough to process and to talk about in the context of ministry. But we want to start with the principle that diversity is our strength.
Yep.
Right? And especially in our community in Indy, which is so wildly diverse, diversity is our strength. And if we're seeing our church become more diverse, it simply means we're seeing our church reflect more of our community. That's a blessing, that's a win. But that comes with friction, that comes with tensions, and we acknowledge that. And oftentimes the friction exists because of our own cultural perspective, right? Help me walk this out. We perceive everything in our world through our own cultural perspective. So if things are different than how we understand culture should be lived out, then it's a little bit odd. It's a little bit weird. And there's friction there. And when that enters into a group who all have a similar cultural perspective, it can then cause friction with the greater group. And so you as a leader have the opportunity to diffuse that friction and that tension, that you can acknowledge your own cultural perspectives, the way that you would perceive the way things should be, the conversations that should be had, the comments that should be made, the clothes that should be worn, the smells that should be smelled, all of those kinds of things. You can diffuse your perspective and begin to engage those students right where they're at. And so it starts with you understanding and you embodying this idea that diversity is a strength, not a weakness.
Yeah. And then also we want to encourage you to lead with listening and to help your group listen first. Oftentimes when diversity grows in these environments, it grows best when our students and ourselves feel heard before they feel judged or questioned. And so this looks like being the model of that, because you are the culture shaper of your group. And so when you're sitting there and modeling listening first before you're quick to correct or quick to judge, you're going to begin to see your students follow suit and do the same thing, where they're going to listen first and maybe ask a follow-up question or ask, well, what did you think about that experience, or how did that experience impact whatever that it is that you're talking about. But when you start to listen first rather than just jump in and try to fix the conversation or to stop the conversation, that makes people feel shut down. It makes them feel less heard. And so when we get to be those people that are encouraging that and encouraging listening before speaking, you're going to see a shift in your group and see that your students are going to do it as well. So
yeah. And then the last thing when we talk about diversity is I would just encourage any leader to find common ground.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about discipleship and discipleship happening, but discipleship starts with relationship. And so you can build relationship with any kid. You can find common ground. A lot of times in youth, I talk about how our active space or our games are a common ground. That's a safe place that any kid, no matter their background, can come in and jump in and learn a simple game. The games might look different, right? Some of your kids' common ground might look like more like an active game. It might look like more like a card game. And so I don't know what the common ground is for students in your group, students who maybe are struggling or they feel like they're on the fringe or the outside culturally. But I want to encourage you as the leader to be the point person to engage them on common ground. And so just understanding that you can step into those gaps and engage them in those ways.
Well, as we conclude the conversation on diversity in our groups, we want to ask the question and be intentional to think about moments in our own groups where we may have had to adjust our perspectives on students. And so I want to ask you, where have you yourself had to adjust your own perspective to be able to better understand or include a student that grew up in a different setting than you grew up in?
All right. The last thing that we wanted to talk about is simply this, that it's more important for you to be poured into than it is for you to pour out. This is backwards, right? Like as a leader, we pour out so much and we see our role in you saying yes to be a leader and a volunteer as pouring out. And as true as that is, I also believe that there's a biblical truth that it's more valuable for you to be poured into than you to pour out. In fact, I believe that without the pouring in of the Holy Spirit daily filling us, weekly leading us, that we have an incapability to pour out effectively into the lives of students. And so we're really excited to process this and talk about this and talk about some key ways and themes that are coming to continue to pour into our leaders in 4-6 and in youth.
Yeah, and the first way that we'll see this is by spending time with Jesus. We talk about leading others and leading students and encouraging them to spend time with Jesus, but we also have to make sure that we're doing that same thing. And so I don't know whatever that looks like for you in your walk right now. It's going to look different in different seasons, but I want to know how you're doing spiritually. And that's an important question to ask yourself often. Make sure that you're spending time in ways that are going to fill yourself up by spending it in the word and prayer and just in community with the Lord before you go out and lead your students. Because like we said, if you're not filling yourself with Jesus, who is our strength, then you're not going to be able to lead your students well, which is what we ultimately want.
Yeah. But we do acknowledge in the midst of that, the real struggle is that we're all busy people.
Right.
And if you're like me, it can feel like as much as you pour into your cup, sometimes you're like, why are there so many holes in my cup, right? Like, why does it empty itself so quickly? Which is one of the reasons why we're so excited to announce and to launch a new element to our leadership in both 4-6 and youth, which is a new level of leadership, which is ministry coordinators. And this is actually something that we've been working on collectively as an entire church over the last year and a half. We've been preparing for, praying over, building the infrastructure and the processes for. And we in our Youth in 4-6 ministries are some of the first to step in and implement these new coordinator roles in our ministries. And so we're so excited to begin to set these up and walk out these roles in the lives of our leaders.
Yeah, and so as the spring moves forward, we are going to be able to unpack more about this and give you more details about what that looks like. We just wanted to be able to make the introductions to you right now so that you know who they are and who the coordinators are going to be for 4-6, but also for youth in the different grades and genders and what that looks like. And so these will be fully implemented in August, but we're just going to start rolling them out and kind of start testing them out right now. And so for the 4-6, Brian is going to be the coordinator for the guys, and then I'm going to be the coordinator for the girls for the time being as we walk this out in this next season. And David, you've got everyone for you.
In youth, we've got Fred Vance is going to be coordinator for all of our guy leaders, 7th to 9th grade. We've got Jim Noel is going to be helping us out as coordinator from guy leaders 10th to 12th. We have Beth, who's going to be serving as a girl coordinator for grades 7th to 9th grade. And we have Alicia Branningham, who's going to be serving as coordinator for 10th to 12th grade girl leaders. And you might be asking yourself, like, what does this mean? What does this look like? Well, these are simply people who are looking to pour into you. Yeah. They might come up to you and simply ask questions like, how are you? How's your family? How's work been? How's life? How's your walk with Jesus? Is there anything that Jesus or the Lord has been teaching you recently? They might ask questions like, how's your group? Have you run into anything recently that's been a challenge? Any kids that are being a challenge? Is there any ways that I can pray for you? Is there any ways that I can support you? Is there any resources that I can get you? They're asking all of these questions because they care about you. They want to pour into you, and they want to build you up as a leader.
Yeah, and ultimately these coordinators are going to continue to elevate our mission as a ministry to be able to reach and disciple our community in a better, stronger way.
Yeah. So your final question of reflection that we want you guys to write down is simply this. What's one way that your coordinator could be praying for you? And then here's what you're going to do with all that you've written. We're going to ask you to send that back over to us. This is our way of seeing that you watched, that you were engaged in what we had with our training content for the winter semester. And so go ahead and take some time as you finish to write that down, and then you can send that to me or Nicole, respectively, ministries, either in a picture, text, or in an email. But send over to us. Let us know that you watched, that you engaged through, and then we're going to forward those third questions over to your coordinators so that even right now they can be starting to pray for you and connect with you as we prepare for the semester ahead.
Well, thank you guys for looping into this video and taking the time to participate. We are so thankful that we get to be a part of ministry with you guys, whether it's in the 4-6 or youth, and we can't wait to be continuing to grow and praying for you guys as you walk out this journey as leaders. So
love you guys.
Yep.
We'll see you later.